Yo, what's up YouTube? It's your boy JHAWK here and welcome to something new I'm doing on the channel. I'm a big college football fan. Out of all the sports I watch, college football is definitely up there. In my top 3, definitely. And I've wanted to do this for a long time on the channel. So, it's the perfect time to do it now. So, what this is going to be about is we will be going over some big time matchups for the weekend and like starting on Thursday night, because these videos are going to come out on Wednesday. We didn't have any, of course, this week because it's week 0, so all the games are on Saturday. And basically, with me being a Wake Forest fan, my boy Sosa is going to join me in doing this. He's going to be in for next week's episode, but since I'm a Wake Forest fan, he's a Georgia fan, we're going to be covering all the ACC and SEC teams every week on the channel, while also going over top 25 teams. And what I threw in is the game of the week for FCS level. So this is what we got. But on this week's schedule for week 0, it's only a couple games. Honestly, we're covering 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We got 13 games that I am going to be covering this week. And, of course, the games start tomorrow. The video is going to come out by midnight tonight. But it's going to be midnight on the day that the week starts. I'm recording this at 4 o'clock. I go to work in a couple hours. So, not going to be out exactly at midnight. But when I get home from work, I'm going straight to editing this and getting it posted. So, you guys will see it probably right about noon. And noon is the first kickoff of the season, and the first kickoff of the year will be at Western Kentucky, as the Hilltoppers will be hosting Austin Peay in this matchup. If we look at both teams from last year, Austin Peay went 6-5. They went 4-2 in the Ohio Valley Conference, and they're going to be taking on this Western Kentucky team that went 9-5 last year, 7-2 in Conference USA. They did, in fact, play in the bowl game. They played in the Boca Raton Bowl last year against Appalachian State, and they won that game 59-38. The big key here for Western Kentucky is trying to figure out what their offense is going to look like this year. They had Bailey Zappi. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But he came over from the FCS level where he was breaking records, and then he came up to Western last year for a year and broke Burrow's touchdown record, and he's now off to the NFL in New England now. So it's going to be interesting to see what their offense does. But, I mean, it's an FCS versus FBS team. 9 times out of 10, you're going to see the FCS team get beat by the FBS team. And, of course, that's probably what's going to happen here. The ESPN Football Power Index is giving Western Kentucky a 94.5% chance to win. They don't have a line score of, like, how much they're going to be favored by. I go by ESPN most of the time. I know I could probably go look for like Vegas betting sites and figuring out the exact total, but it's going to be a big margin because this is an FBS team hosting an FCS team. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead for the record. Western Kentucky is going to win this game. I'm not sure if I'm going to give score predictions for any of these games, but I will say Western Kentucky is going to win this game by a very big margin. That brings us to the second game I'm covering, a 12:30 Fox Sports kickoff. Never mind, it's on Fox. It's a Fox game of the week, and it's also our game of the week this week, as the Nebraska Cornhuskers take on the Northwestern Wildcats in a game that is being played in Dublin, Ireland. We're going overseas to Ireland for the first time since the pandemic happened. Let's look at both teams from last year. And Nebraska, we'll start out with them going 3-9, 1-8 in Big Ten play. And Nebraska's team last year will go down as the greatest non-loss team of all time. They lost all those games by at least a touchdown, about 8 points. They lost all those games. They competed in all those games, just couldn't finish it out. If they finish out at least like 3 of them, they're in a bowl game. So Nebraska, they just had it rough last year. For this Northwestern team, exact same records, 3-9, 1-8 in Big Ten play. They just didn't look well all year. They played in a matchup last year because they're in the same division. Nebraska blew out Northwestern 56-7. The point spread, Nebraska is an 11-point favorite in this one, and the FBI is giving them a 78.7% chance to win this game. And like I said, last year, Nebraska was the best 9-loss team that we've ever seen. Like, they competed with Michigan. They competed with literally everyone they played and lost to. Well, besides Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma kind of beat them. But, yeah, all the games that they lost in conference play, they were in the game, the whole game. Like Michigan State, they went to OT with. You saw how that ended. It's going to be interesting. It's weird having our game of the week be the second game that we talk about. Maybe that'll change in the future. Most of the time, the game of the week, we're going to follow where College Game Day goes, unless me and Sosa have a different preference on which one looks like it would be the game of the week. But this is the game of the week for the fact that they're going overseas. I think Game Day's going there. I'm not 100% confirmed. I'm not actually sure where they're going. But I'm going to roll with the best 9-loss team of all time and take Nebraska to win against Northwestern. Again, this is a big year for Scott Frost and company. If he doesn't get this team to at least a bowl game this year, he might be on the way out. So we're just going to rock with Nebraska to win this game. Final score, I will say 38-27 Nebraska. So we'll move on to our next game. The Western Kentucky game, if you want to watch, is a noon kickoff on CBS Sports Network. The Nebraska Northwestern game is a 12:30 kickoff on Fox. Game 3 is a 3:30 CBS Sports Network kickoff, which features the Idaho State. Are they the Bobcats or the Tigers? Not sure. Idaho State. They're going to be taking the road as an FCS team on the road to Las Vegas to take on UNLV. Looking at this matchup, Idaho State 1-10 last year. They went 1-7 in conference play in the Big Sky Conference. Outside of that, you look at their opponent, the Rebels of UNLV, one of the worst teams in college football last year. They finished 2-10. They went 2-6 in conference play, though. And FBS is, of course, or FPI is definitely going to give UNLV the edge in this one. 93% chance to win for the fact that it is an FCS versus FBS team. Like I said, 3:30 kickoff on CBS Sports Network if you want to watch it. If you don't have CBS Sports Network, I don't. I definitely don't. But that's up to you guys. So UNLV, man, they struggled last year, didn't they? 2-10. They got the 2 wins in conference play, but outside of that, they kind of struggled a lot. We come over here and let me open up my tab and look at their schedule from last year and just look at it. Like, they struggled last year, guys. They really just did not look good. They used to have what's his name? What was his name? He played in Nevada last year or played in Nevada in high school. Tate Martell, right? Yeah, because he left Ohio State to go to Miami, and then Miami to UNLV. Then he retired. But looking at UNLV last year, they actually did lose to an FCS school last year. They lost to Eastern Washington the first game of the season. Then, like, looking at these other games, Arizona State beat them by 27. Iowa State beat them by 45. They competed with a Fresno State team that was actually pretty decent last year. They actually competed with Texas San Antonio, who had that magical Cinderella run. And, I mean, most of the games they actually competed in, they went to New Mexico and beat them. They beat Hawaii, which we'll feature them later. San Diego State's in this. They played in the conference championship game, and they only lost by 8 points to them. So, I mean, take it the way you want with UNLV, but, I mean, most of the games they did compete in, if you flip some of the results around, then maybe they flirt with like 4 or 5 wins. But it's Idaho State. They definitely did not look like a good team last year. They won 1 game, which was a conference game. I'm just going to roll with the FPI and take UNLV to win this game. I'm most likely not going to pick any scores for like an FBS versus FCS school. I'll just say that UNLV is going to win this game, which brings us to our next game of 4 o'clock kickoff on Fox Sports 1, featuring the UConn Huskies on the road in Logan, Utah, taking on the Utah State Aggies. Looking at these teams from last year, UConn, they have to be the worst team in college football last year. They went 1-11, and I mean, they got beat by Holy Cross. Their only win last year was beating Yale, and they only beat Yale by a touchdown. So UConn very much struggled last year. They're going to be taking on Utah State, who went 11-3 overall. They went 7-2 in the Mountain West Conference. They won the conference championship game, defeating San Diego State, and then kept the momentum going by defeating Oregon State in the Los Angeles Bowl last year by a score of 24-13. Utah State is a 26.5 point favorite in this one, and the FPI gives them a 90.6% chance to win, and that is not surprising at all, considering how bad UConn was last year and how bad they're probably going to be again this year. Man, UConn, man. If you look at UConn's schedule from last year, Fresno State shut them out week 1. They played Holy Cross and lost 38-28. Purdue blew them out. Army blew them out. They competed with Wyoming but lost by 2. Lost by 2 at Vanderbilt. UMass, who was also one of the worst teams in college football last year, beat them by 2 touchdowns. They beat Yale by 6. Middle Tennessee blew them out. And the rest of the schedule were blowouts. Clemson, UCF, Houston, all blowouts. Yeah. And then Utah State's coming off the conference championship and the bowl win. Utah State was a really good team last year, and I probably expect the same thing. Utah State's going to win this game against UConn. I think they're going to easily win this game to me. In my opinion, they're going to easily win this game. That 26.5, if I was a bettor, I think you would want to take the over, just for the fact I don't think UConn's going to compete at all in this game. So, final score-wise, I'll go 48-14. 48-14, Utah State defeating UConn. Alright, we're sticking with the 4 o'clock kickoff, and this time it's on the Big Ten Network, and features the Wyoming Cowboys and the Illinois Fighting Illini. Previewing both of these teams, Wyoming went 7-6, 2-6 in the Mountain West Conference. The poor conference record wasn't bad enough where they got to a bowl game. They played Kent State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, which is played at Boise State on the blue turf, and they won that game 52-38. As for Illinois, the Fighting Illini go 5-7 last year, 4-5 in Big Ten play. The ESPN Football Power Index is giving them a 75.1% chance to win this game, and Illinois is a 2-touchdown favorite, which isn't surprising considering this game is going to be played on their home field. But this is one of these games where I think if you're Illinois, you got to be careful, because Wyoming's not a bad team. They played, if we look at their schedule from last year, Wyoming, they started out hot out the gate 4-0, and then kind of got cold, losing 4 straight, and then they finished the season getting to 6-6, just well enough to get to a bowl game. They beat that Utah State team we talked about earlier. Who else did they play that was competing? Competed with Fresno State. I mean, they got shut out, but they only lost 17-0. They struggled with Montana State in week 1, of course, but I mean, it's week 1. You gotta get the rust off. You haven't played in like a week, you know. But yeah, Illinois, on the other hand, last year, I mean, they were up and down a lot last year. They opened up the season beating Nebraska, in an 8-point game. Like I said, Nebraska lost all those close games. They competed with Texas San Antonio, got blown out by Virginia, lost by 3 to Maryland, lost by 4 to Purdue. But Purdue was like one of those teams you weren't going to beat them at home. They beat Charlotte by 10. Played Wisconsin, got shut out, only gave up 24 though. They beat Penn State in that classic 9-overtime game. Competed with Rutgers. I mean, all the games they lost and played, they basically competed in outside of that Virginia game that they got beat. I mean, they competed with Iowa too, losing only by 10 points. But I mean, I think this is a game where you gotta be careful if you're Illinois. I don't think you just want to sleep on Wyoming coming in there and rolling over and taking a loss. If I was a bettor and saw Illinois was a 2-touchdown favorite, I'm going to pick the under on that because I feel like Wyoming's going to keep it close and flirt with upsetting them. And I honestly think I'm going to pick Wyoming to upset Illinois. I think it's going to be like one of those 3-point games where the game probably goes into overtime. So what I'm thinking is Wyoming's going to win this game by a score of 27-24. They're going to kick a field goal late in the game and upset Illinois on their home field. So that's my first upset, picking Wyoming to go to Illinois and beat them. Next up on the schedule, we got a 5 o'clock ACC Network kickoff that features the Duquesne Dukes traveling to Tallahassee, Florida to take on the Florida State Seminoles. For Duquesne, they went 7-3 last year, 5-2 in the Northeastern Conference. A record like that would definitely be good for a bowl game, but the FCS does playoffs, and they did not qualify for the FCS playoffs last year. As for our friends at Florida State, they went 5-7, 4-4 in conference play. Another disappointing year for Mike Norvell and company, and let's just look at Florida State and how they started last year. They started the season 4 straight losses. They competed in the Notre Dame game. That was the game the Sunday before Labor Day last year. Notre Dame came into town, and Florida State gave them a fit all game and just couldn't hold on at the very end. Notre Dame went away with the 3-point overtime victory. But you gotta like, Florida State fans were thinking, all right, we competed with Notre Dame in a game where we probably shouldn't have even competed at all. So let's take this momentum in the next week. And then they got beat by Jacksonville State. And I was watching that game because I was texting my dad. My dad was at a baseball game. I was texting him, keeping him up because he's a Florida State fan. I was keeping him up with the game, like just showing them what was going on. And then I told him at the end, like the play that happened, it was just a go route that they threw, and they just didn't get a tackle. And Jacksonville State walked in the end zone with the upset 20-17 victory. And then they get into week 3. They come to Winston-Salem. I am a Wake Forest fan. Definitely went to that game. It wasn't even close, honestly. The final score was 35-14. It just wasn't that close on the field. Mackenzie Milton got to play. Jordan Travis got to play. They didn't have an answer. They couldn't get the offense going. They couldn't stop us on defense. So they're down 3-0. I might as well say they're down 3-0. So they're at 0-3. They go home again, play Louisville, and it's another close game. But again, can't finish the job. Get beat 31-23. You're 0-4. Play Syracuse team. They're down. I mean, Syracuse wasn't the best last year. The bright spot for Syracuse last year was Sean Tucker. That kid is amazing. He was running it everywhere. They win by 3. Then they come to Chapel Hill the very next week, and they upset them. So it's like, okay, they got it going now. Get a bye week. You get to play UMass, who's one of the worst teams in college football. You blow them out. You have all that momentum, 3 straight wins. You're going into the game against Clemson. You're going to Death Valley. You're competing the whole game. Just couldn't finish it together. The strip at the end of the game that's brought back at the buzzer for a touchdown. I hate when teams do that shit. Just try to run the score up on purpose. But Clemson wins by 10. Play NC State. It's a pretty defensive game, but NC State wins that. The Miami game, that was the same week Wake Forest played NC State, so we're walking up. It's me and my dad. My friend JD came with us. He's an NC State fan. All 3 of us are walking into the stadium. They got a TV outside the stadium with the Florida State-Miami game on. Florida State scores the touchdown to go ahead. My dad's happy. Of course, I'm happy for him. So they win that. They beat Boston College. There's 2 straight wins. Now you're at 5-6. You need to beat Florida. You have to beat Florida to get to a bowl game. And then you guys saw the failed onside kick attempt. Florida State, I mean, this is boom or bust this time. They have to get to a bowl game. If Mike Norvell wants to keep his job next year, they have to get to a bowl game. The FBI is giving Florida State a 99.5% chance to win this game. I'm curious to see how high it was last year when they played Jacksonville State. But I think this is going to be a different Florida State team. The media is hyping them up again, saying that they might finish at least top 3 in the Atlantic. Might surprise people. I think this is going to be a good year for Florida State. I think they're going to bounce back. And like I said, I know I probably just went on for like 5 minutes rambling about Florida State. But like I said, me and Sosa are ACC, SEC fans. So we're going to cover our conferences more. So he'll probably talk more when he's here next week. Talk more about the SEC teams. I'm going to talk more about the ACC teams. That's how it's going to go. But I'm picking Florida State to win this game. I think Florida State needs to go ahead, start out 1-0. Get ready for your big matchup. Labor Day weekend in New Orleans, taking on LSU. That's going to be a fun game. We'll be previewing that next week. So I'm picking Florida State to win this game. And that brings us to a 7 o'clock kickoff on CBS Sports Network, the third of 4 games on CBS Sports Network. So if you're a big college football fan, just tune in to CBS Sports Network. Get football all day. But this brings a conference matchup to week 1. It is the Charlotte 49ers on the road taking on the Florida Atlantic Owls. Both of these teams 5-7, 3-5 in Conference USA play last year. Florida Atlantic won the matchup last year in Charlotte by a score of 38-9. And let's talk about both teams because, man, both of these teams, they got 2 different stories when it comes to them comparing teams from last year and this year. We're going to look at starting it with UNC Charlotte since they're the road team in this one. UNC Charlotte started their season with the biggest win in school history at that point, defeating Duke at home, getting their first ever Power 5 victory. Then they beat Gardner-Webb the next week. They're off to a quick 2-0 start. Go to Georgia State, which they, for some reason, play every year. I guess they have a rivalry with Georgia State or something. Get beat by them. Play Middle Tennessee State the next week. They're up 3-1. Illinois is not the best Power 5 team, but that's another Power 5 team where you can feel confident that maybe you'll beat them. They lost that one, but it was a close game the whole way. Then they beat Florida International 45-33, get to 4 wins right before their bye week. They're like, all right, so we have 6 games remaining. We just need to win 2 to get bowl eligible. And they just crashed and burned. Literally. Started out with the Florida Atlantic game. They got blown out. Went to Western Kentucky. Got blown out. Come home and beat Rice. And they get the overtime win. I think my sister was at that game. Because her and her husband, now my brother-in-law, are Charlotte alumni. So you get to that point. You're like, all right, 3 games left, just got to win 1 game. And they lost 3 straight games. They lost to Louisiana Tech, they lost to Marshall, and they lost to Old Dominion to finish the year. So heartbreaking fashion for Charlotte to finish their season. Florida Atlantic, on the other hand, Willie Taggart is the head coach there. And with a guy that had success kind of at Oregon and South Florida. And he's coached at a Power 5 school, 2 of them, coaching at Oregon and Florida State. You would think with the Power 5 experience, he would come into Conference USA and have them at least compete. But, I mean, most of these games, like, they lost to Florida at the beginning of the year. Then they beat Georgia Southern, beat Fordham. Went to Air Force, got beat, blown out, honestly. Florida Atlantic, they beat UAB, they lost to. And then they're kind of in the same boat as Charlotte. They beat Charlotte and then they beat UTEP. So they're 1 win away from being in a bowl game. And then they lose 4 straight, losing to Marshall, Old Dominion, Western Kentucky blew them out, and Middle Tennessee beat them at the end of the season. So both of these teams were literally 1 win away from getting into a bowl game, and they both lost. The ESPN people are giving Florida Atlantic a 67.6% chance to win this game, and they are a 7-point favorite. And I mean, I think this is going to be a really good game. I'm not familiar. I just look at the schedules and see how well these teams did. And honestly, I think this is going to be a fun conference matchup. This is one of 2 conference matchups in the Conference USA this weekend. And honestly, I think, because I want to pull for Charlotte and pick them to win, for the fact that, like I said, my sister and brother-in-law now, they both graduated from Charlotte, and my friend D'Angelo is now at Charlotte. So I want to pick them for the fact that I got close connections to Charlotte. I don't know. It's going to be hard. Playing road games week 1 are definitely hard to win. I'm going to take Florida Atlantic in a close one. I would take the under on 7, though. I feel like it'll be like a 3-point game. I'm going to take Florida Atlantic to win the game 34-31. 34-31. I'll say a very close game in this one. So now that brings us to 8:15 p.m. on the ACC network, which features the Florida A&M Rattlers taking on the North Carolina Tar Heels in Chapel Hill. Looking at both of these teams, Florida A&M, their first year in the SWAC. They go 9-3, 7-1 in the SWAC. Not good enough to be in the conference championship game, though. They're in the same, I think they're in the same division as Jackson State. I know they lost to Jackson State. But they did. Their 9-3 was good enough to make the FCS playoffs. But they went to Southeastern Louisiana and were blown out 38-14 in round 1. So their season came to a quick end. As for the Tar Heels of North Carolina, high expectations to start the year. They started the season as a top 10 team. So you expect them to play like a top 10 team. In week 1 of the season, it's their first game in Blacksburg with fans back. Enter Sandman, got the crowd rocking early. Virginia Tech was able to pull off the upset in the top 10 Tar Heels then. They bounced back with 2 good wins, blowing out Georgia State, getting a runaway win against Virginia. And then they went to Georgia Tech. That game was played in the Dome. It was an ACC Network primetime kickoff, and Georgia Tech upsets them. They bounce back the next week, blowing out Duke. Then they get beat by Florida State unexpectedly. Beat Miami in a really good game. They get a bye week before they prepare for Notre Dame. And they didn't do too bad with Notre Dame. Only lost by 10. They played us. That game, yeah. It was a shootout. We should have won. This didn't happen. Play Pitt the very next week. Get beaten in overtime. I remember that game. It was raining in the second half. And Kenny Pickett put the gloves on or something like that. Or I forgot when he put gloves on. But he got the job done for them. Beat Wofford, and then NC State. I promise you, I was at work this game for the NC State game, and my friend JD was there, and I was like, just get it done, because I know we needed State to win, and then just for the fact that State would eliminate Clemson from being in the ACC championship. So that was basically all we had to do was beat Boston College, which we did. But we needed Clemson or State to win, so they had the tiebreaker over Clemson. I wouldn't have cared if State went into the ACC championship game over. As long as Clemson didn't go, I didn't care. But State held on, beat them. And then they played South Carolina in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Really good game. But South Carolina came away with the 38-21 victory in that one. FBI, of course, giving North Carolina a 99.6% chance to win this game. What my eye is on in week 1 for North Carolina is the fact that I want to see what the offense now looks like without Sam Howell. They got Drake May penciled in to be the starting quarterback. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like with him. I don't know. I haven't really looked at the film on him, see what kind of quarterback he looks like. I just know he was a big-time prospect. He originally had committed to play football at Alabama, then decommitted and chose North Carolina. But he had the redshirt season last year to learn things from Sam Howell. We'll see what happens. I'm really actually curious to see what it's going to be like. They got an all-ACC wide receiver in Josh Downs back. So North Carolina's going to win this game. If I was to go to this game, which I thought about actually going to this game just to see Florida A&M's marching band. You got to show love to the HBCU marching bands. I definitely would have went for that. But, yeah, I'm just going to say North Carolina's going to win this game. Got 5 games left to preview at the 30-minute mark. So, hopefully we're going to keep all these within an hour. Next up on our schedule is a 9 o'clock kickoff. It doesn't have a TV station. But it is a conference matchup showdown, so it might actually be on the stadium app. But we have the North Texas Mean Green traveling to UTEP, Texas El Paso, as the UTEP Miners host them. And both these teams made a bowl game last year. North Texas went 6-7, 5-3 in Conference USA play. They played in added on Frisco Bowl. They played 2 games in Frisco, Texas, and they lost against Miami, Ohio, 27-14. As for UTEP, they went 7-6, 4-4 in Conference USA play, and they played in the New Mexico Bowl and lost to Fresno State by a score of 31-24. In this matchup last year, since they are conference opponents, North Texas won the matchup 20-17. The Mean Green of North Texas are 1.5 point favorites, while the FPI is giving them a 60.1% chance to win this game. This should be a fun matchup. Both teams coming off bowl games. Played a good game last year, as you can tell by the 3-point loss that UTEP did suffer. But this is 2 teams played in bowl games, played a close one last year. North Texas was one of those teams, they kind of got hot late in the year last year. Like, being honest with you, they kind of got hot late in the season. There's UTEP. All right, so we found UTEP first, so we'll talk about UTEP. Played that terrible New Mexico State team and beat them week 1. Played Bethune-Cookman, beat them week 2. Boise State on the road blew them out, and then they won a nice little win streak. After their bye week against Boise, they beat New Mexico, beat Old Dominion, beat Southern Miss, beat Louisiana Tech. So 4 straight wins off a bye week. They're looking at 6-1. And then coming off the bye week, they just lose gas. Florida Atlantic beats them by 3. Texas San Antonio blows them out. North Texas wins against, beats them by 3. Rice gets a 10-point win. They get a 10-point win over Rice, and then UAB, they lose at the end of the year, and then Fresno State. So you look at that, their final, what is that, 6 games of the season, they went 1-5, so not ideal where you want to be trying to go into next season. For North Texas, it was a different story. It started the year with the FBS game, beating Northwestern State by 30. Then they played some pretty good competition, playing SMU, getting beat by them pretty easy. Played UAB, got blown out by them. Louisiana Tech they competed with. Got a bye week, much needed. Didn't really help though. They played Missouri close, but ended up losing that game 48-35. Marshall blows them out. Liberty, they beat them by 11. Now you're just wondering if you guys are going to win a game. You're at 1-6. You have to win all 5 games just to get a bowl game, and that's exactly what they did. Beating Rice in overtime, beating Southern Miss, beating UTEP, beating Florida Atlantic pretty easy, and then upsetting Texas San Antonio, who was trying to finish their perfect season. So they had the momentum going to the bowl game, but they ended up losing to Miami, Ohio. But it's a tale of 2 different things. North Texas started cold, got hot. And UTEP started hot and got cold. So it's just, you get all the offseason to work on stuff. I think I'm just going to roll with North Texas to win this game. You got to take the over on this one. I think it's going to be more than just a 1.5. I'll say, because it was 2017 last year, I'll say North Texas wins this first game by a score of 33-27. I'll take the Mean Green to start 1-0 in conference play. Much needed. So that brings us to our final 2 FBS games that we cover. And we have a 10 o'clock kickoff on ESPN2, which features the Nevada Wolfpack traveling to New Mexico State to take on the Aggies. And here's this bad New Mexico State team. They went 2-10 last year. Golly. They played bad last year. They played really bad last year. They played last year, too, talking about Nevada and New Mexico State. Nevada, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They went 8-5, 5-3 in Mountain West Conference play. They did, in fact, play in a bowl game. Lost to Western Michigan 52-24 in the Quick Lane Bowl. But I'm curious to see what Nevada's going to look like now, losing Carson Strong to the NFL. And, I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing what their offense is like. But they're playing a team with New Mexico State, which they easily defeated last year. They beat them 55-28 at home. So this game's the second of a back-to-back home and home that teams usually do. Nevada's only an 8.5 point favorite, and the FPI's giving them a 78.2% chance to win this game. And I mean, like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see what the offense looks like with Carson Strong gone. But it's New Mexico State. Nevada's going to win this game. And I think I'll take the over on this one. I think it's going to be close to another blowout like it was last year. I'll say Nevada's going to win 44-17. I'm going to take a pretty big blowout, honestly. That's a pretty big blowout. Don't really want to talk about, like, New Mexico State for, like, 15 minutes. Alright, so the last FBS game kicks off at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CBS Sports Network and features the Vanderbilt Commodores on the road in Hawaii. Taking on, what's their team name again? Are they the Warriors? Because I remember them as the Rainbow Warriors for forever. But the Hawaii Warriors, I think that's their correct term. Vanderbilt, 2-10, didn't win a conference game. Hawaii went 6-7, 3-5 in the Mountain West Conference. And you know the controversy. I'm not good with fucking words. My bad, you guys. But, yeah, their game against Memphis, the Hawaii Bowl, was canceled literally like 24 hours right before kickoff. So you see how that worked. Yeah. So, for some reason, Vanderbilt's given 9.5 points to win this game. And Hawaii's given, on the FPI, a 72% chance to win. So it sounds like the people at ESPN have no fucking clue what's going to happen. Hawaii went 6-7 last year, like we talked about. So that means in conference play they went 3-1 in their conference games. Or not, they didn't go 3-1. They went 3-2 because they, for some reason, they played a week 0 game against UCLA. My bad. I don't know how they got an additional game without the bowl game, but I mean they got beat by UCLA, got beat by Oregon State in conference play while beating Portland State, New Mexico State, and who was the other one they beat? Who is the other non-conference team they beat? Because they only won 3 conference games. Portland State, New Mexico State, and they played New Mexico State twice? Y'all got 2 free easy dubs. That's some bullshit. They got 2 dubs because they played New Mexico State. Okay, I'm taking that shit away from you guys. You guys won 5 games. You don't get 2 wins for beating the same New Mexico State team. That's not how this works. What the hell? They thought they were slick, bro. We beat them twice. Why you get to play the same team twice? That's bullying. Let's just take our transition over to Vanderbilt, who went 2-10. They lost the first game of the season by 20 points to FCS East Tennessee State. I mean, East Tennessee State did their thing last year, though. Ain't gonna lie, they did their thing. And they beat Colorado State and they beat UConn. The Colorado State one's impressive. They went on the road and beat them. But UConn, no. You only get 1 win in my book. But Vanderbilt's coach is talking crazy, talking about we're going to be the next big thing in the SEC when it comes to football. I'm like, dude, chill out. It's Vanderbilt. You got their baseball school. But 9.5 points is a lot of points, but also giving 72% to Hawaii is a lot also. So I don't know. ESPN doesn't know what the fuck they're doing with their life right now. Honestly. Because 9.5 points is a lot of points. I'm going Vanderbilt. You know what? I'm just gonna do it for the freaking memes because I don't know. Both of these teams are probably pretty bad. Vanderbilt's gonna win this game 6-3. I don't know. Both these teams are bad. Let's just preview the last 2 games that I have. And I said I was doing FCS Game of the Week. Well, I'm going with Co-Game of the Weeks. So we started out with the first matchup. We have the top 10 ranked team in FCS, the Stephen F. Austin Lumberjacks, I believe, as they take on Jacksonville State in a game that's going to be played in Birmingham, I believe. I do believe that is in Birmingham. Or is it Montgomery? But yeah, Montgomery. Because Jacksonville State did this last year too. They opened up the season in Montgomery playing. They played UAB last year. But Stephen F. Austin and Jacksonville State, that's a 3:30 kickoff on ESPN. The first of 2 on ESPN that day. And for Stephen F. Austin, they come into this matchup with an 8-4 record. They went 4-2 in conference play last year. They played in the FCS playoffs and got beat in the first round in overtime by UIW, 35-28 in that one for Jacksonville State. As you know, 5-6, 3-3 in conference play. The big upset win against Florida State last year. These 2 teams did play last year, and Jacksonville State got the better of the teams, winning 28-24. Not too sure how I can go with the FCS level. I'm not too familiar with the FCS level. Honestly, being completely honest, the only FCS I really can keep up with is like North Dakota State, seeing how well they do. I used to do James Madison, but they made the jump this year. I keep up with the MEAC and the SWAC because I love HBCUs. So, I'm not too familiar with this. These games don't even have a point spread. They don't even have a point spread. Like, if they had a point spread, I'd give you, like, the point spread or, like, what the FBI is. But they don't have any of this. I'm assuming that Stephen F. Austin is going to be the favorite in this game for the fact that they're the number 10 team in FCS. But I'm just going to pick FCS, or Stephen F. Austin to win the game. I think it'll be a close game, kind of like they did last year. Stephen F. Austin is going to get their revenge, guys. And that brings us to the very last game that we preview this week. A 7 p.m. ESPN kickoff from Center Parc Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. We have the MEAC SWAC Challenge featuring the Howard Bison of the MEAC taking on Alabama State. Where are they? Dang, the Hornets. My bad. Jesus, brain fart. Been recording for 43 minutes, so I got a little brain fart, guys. But the Alabama State Hornets of the SWAC in the MEAC SWAC Challenge this year. This is one of my favorite games to watch. I love watching the MEAC SWAC Challenge. This year's game features the Bison of Howard. They went 2-8, 1-4 in the MEAC. As you know, the MEAC kind of got destroyed with most of the teams leaving for the SWAC. So there's only 6 teams in general. They played 5 conference games. They went 1-4 last year. And their opponent is the Alabama State Hornets from the SWAC, who went 5-6, 3-5 in the SWAC. I'm excited about this one because, like I said, I watch the MEAC SWAC Challenge every year. So I'm definitely going to be tuned in for that. At some point, I'll probably watch the Florida State Duquesne game too. But in this game, I am going to rock with the Alabama State Hornets in this one. I love their band too. I love Alabama State's band. So that's what we're rocking with, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy this. Like I said, next week, my boy Sosa will be here. We're going to preview all the SEC, ACC games, all the top 25 games. We're going to find out our game of the week and our FCS game of the week. So I hope you guys are excited about that. Hope you guys are excited about this new series I got going on. It should be a fun one. Let's see what happens. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of our college football preview. Next week we will preview week 1. We'll get Sosa's picks for who he's picking to win each conference and his sleeper team. We'll pick our college football playoff finalists. And we'll go ahead and name our favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. So a lot in store for next week's episode. I hope you guys are excited about that. I appreciate you guys coming out and supporting me on something new I'm trying. With that being said, make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. Come join the family. We're going to try to get back into doing some live streams, so be on the lookout for that. Click on the post notification button so you guys don't miss an upload or a stream. And yeah, that being said, I'll catch you guys next week for the episode with Sosa. So appreciate you guys. Stay safe out there, and I love you guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.